In FNAF 1, we play as a night security guard just hired by Fazbear Entertainment to work at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, the Chuck E. Cheese of this reality, where instead of a mouse for their mascot, it's a bear. Freddy Fazbear to be exact, along with his band of Foxy the Pirate Fox, Chica the Chicken, and Bonnie the Bunny. The story, as we're told in the game, is that the robots are programmed to walk around at night so that their mechanisms don't lock up and they don't break down. So you, as the night guard, need to keep an eye out for them, since if they see you, they'll think you're an animatronic endoskeleton without a suit on, which is against company policy, so they'll try and put you in a suit so you don't get in trouble. However, by reading newspaper clippings on the walls that can swap out and paying attention to sounds, we get a bigger story behind the dark history of this pizza place. And while a couple of mishaps are mentioned, like the infamous bite of 87, an incident referred to as the missing children's incident is the inciting moment, when 5 kids go missing while spending time at the restaurant, and while an unnamed suspect was arrested, they had to let him go due to a lack of evidence. They never ended up finding the bodies of these children, but reports coming from parents and staff about the animatronics leaking blood and mucus and smelling like death, along with the repercussions of the incident, ended up getting the place closed at the end of the game, but not before we're fired for odor and tampering with the animatronics. That's seemingly where things ended. However, in FNAF 2 we start to see more. Now, FNAF 2 is largely accepted to be a prequel to the first game, meaning that it takes place before the events of FNAF 1. This year was determined to be 1987, with FNAF 1 taking place in probably around 1993. In FNAF 2, while the story remains largely the same, the animatronics need to walk around at night so they don't lock up, and will put you in a suit if you're seen, the introduction of new characters and new 8-bit mini-games you can play when you die opens up this simple point-and-click to a much larger story. With a mysterious figure colored only in purple, we see him kill 6 separate characters, 1 in the Take Cake to Children minigame, and 5 in the Foxy Go 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 minigame. Each minigame is followed by a jump scare related to an aspect of the minigame as well, with Foxy Go Go Go's jump scare being Foxy, and Take Cake to Children being the newly introduced puppet animatronic. This would later be revealed to be because the victim in Take Cake, the one that gets killed outside the restaurant, actually goes on to possess the puppet, and is the first of now 6 victims. The other 5 from Foxy Go 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 are the missing children from the missing children's incident that go on to possess the original 5 animatronics: Freddy, Foxy, Bonnie, Chica, and Golden Freddy. This mysterious purple guy would also become the main antagonist of nearly every game in the series, and would later be revealed to be William Afton, the part owner of Fazbear Entertainment. FNAF 3 is where the story was actually originally meant to end, with this installment having some of the most confusing parts yet. This game has 2 endings, and is the first one to do so. The first one being the bad ending, which you'd get from playing the game normally, but through secret codes and items you could unlock the good ending, which has the souls of the original 5 missing children being put to rest in what is now known as the Happiest Day minigame. The story of the main game, however, is that 30 years after the first game's location closed in 1993, so in 2023, the first location is reopened and themed to be a horror house, as a way to commemorate the grisly deaths that occurred. But unknowingly, the owners released an animatronic that wasn't quite what he seemed. Well, they knew he was an animatronic, but what they didn't know, and what we're told through between night minigames that we can play, we learned that this animatronic, known as Spring Bonnie or nicknamed Springtrap by the fans, is actually the purple guy. After trying to free himself of his sins by disassembling the original 5 animatronics, Afton unknowingly released their spirits, who show themselves and attack him, causing him to freak out and jump back into his Spring Bonnie suit, which is a specially designed suit that works as both an animatronic and a normal suit. It's not realistic, but it's important for this next point, since the robot parts are moved aside by mechanisms called spring locks. These suits, which there are 2 of them, are also referred to as spring lock suits. These spring locks, though, tend to fail when wet, so since the room was leaking, the spring lock mechanisms in the suit fail when Afton is inside, causing all the robotic parts to be put back into place. This grisly scene of Afton being shoved full of metal and robotic parts doesn't kill him, however, which will be explained later, and the canon ending to this game is seemingly the good ending, meaning that after FNAF 3 there are no missing children to put to rest, right? Well, you'd figure that was the case after the location burns down, but this is where things get complicated. Thanks to the community's disappointment with the Springtrap jump scare, Scott Cawthon, the creator of the series, made a new game, FNAF 4, where instead of a security guard, we're a child protecting ourselves from animatronics in our bedroom. But there's more to it than that. These animatronics are scarier than anything we've ever seen before and are referred to as nightmare animatronics. These caused quite a bit of confusion and still do, but basically they aren't real animatronics. They're figments of this kid's mind that are created while he is fighting for his life in the hospital. This is indicated to us by the fact that we play as a child in the Between Night minigames that seemingly dies at the end, and because at some points you can see flowers, an IV, and pills next to your bed when you turn around, because you also have to look at your bed. All three of these things are separate Easter eggs, like they don't all show up together, but they're something that you'd normally find in a hospital room. The story of this game is that this child, known as the Crying Child, since no canon name has been revealed at this time, was scared of the animatronics for some reason, but had to keep going to Fazbear locations because lo and behold, he's the son of William Afton, the purple guy. So the son of the purple guy was scared of these animatronics somehow, and this causes him to freak out. But at the end of the week, at his birthday party, which they threw at Freddy Fazbear's for some reason, his mean older brother and his friends put Crying Child's head in the Fredbear animatronic because it would terrify him. However, thanks to this stunt, the animatronic jaw crushes Crying Child's skull, sending him into a coma where we fight for our life. What we see in the coma is actually the main game, where we're in the bedroom fighting against the animatronics. The game ends after we defeat the animatronic known simply as Nightmare, who is representative of death, and hear a flatline. A character who we all guess is Afton then tells us, "I will put you back together," and we see what is now the infamous FNAF 4 box, with the haunting line of "perhaps some things are best left forgotten for now." However, the contents of this box are never truly officially revealed. There are a lot of theories, but nothing set in stone. This game is really the earliest in the timeline since it takes place in 1983, as we learn from the TV and the minigames that says Fredbear and Friends 1983, and it was later confirmed in the next game. The next game in the series is FNAF's sister location, where the name reveal of William Afton occurs. However, the name was first revealed in the novel The Silver Eyes, but don't worry, I'm not getting into those today. Hell no. Sister Location is really the first story-driven FNAF game, with a series of nights, but those nights being completed after the main story of the night is done, where you as the new technician and night guard of Circus Baby's entertainment and rental have various malfunctions to contend to. Your guide throughout this game is the new Circus Baby animatronic, who helps it make you through her friends' issues. Her friends being the new fun-time versions of Freddy and Foxy, as well as a new animatronic named Ballora and her mini Renas. The Between Night minigames of this game don't really reveal much until a blonde-haired girl is offered ice cream by Baby and then gets grabbed by a giant claw coming out of her stomach. This blonde girl is actually William Afton's daughter Elizabeth, who after getting scooped goes on to possess the baby animatronic, changing its eye color from blue to green. It's also assumed that this incident of Elizabeth getting scooped is what Crying Child saw to make him scared of the animatronics, given that the nightmare animatronics have stomach mouths, which would make sense if he saw a giant claw come out of the stomach of Baby, which would mean that these minigames are actually the first event in the timeline. Given that Circus Baby and her friends were meant to headline a new restaurant called Circus Baby's Pizza World, and the death of Elizabeth actually ended up causing them to call it off after just one day. And then at the end of the game we get shoved full of an animatronic amalgam called Ennard, that is in essence a combination of all major animatronics that we encounter throughout this game that uses our body to escape the facility that they're being held in. They then abandon our body when we turn physically purple due to intense bruising, or at least I think it's because of intense bruising, but somehow we aren't actually dead. We say it ourselves, and so does Baby. We then learn that we play as a character named Michael, the third Afton kid who is presumably the older brother of Crying Child, although that is still currently up for debate, who made it his mission to now find his father and put an end to his crimes. This is also when it's revealed that Springtrap survived the FNAF 3 fire. FNAF 6 is where things really come to an end for most of these characters. Between the the releases of Sister Location and FNAF 6, aka Pizzeria Simulator, a conversation between Circus Baby and the rest of Ennard can be found in the source code to ScottGames.com, Scott's website. This conversation reveals that Baby ended up getting kicked out of Ennard, becoming her own animatronic once more in this game in the form of Scrap Baby, and what's left of Ennard becomes Molten Freddy. This game features us as Michael once more, now being the owner of a pizzeria. However, paragraph 4 of our contract states that at the end of every shift, we need to check out back for an animatronic, and if there is one, grab it and bring it inside for salvaging. We do this 4 times with 4 animatronics. Scrap Baby and Molten Freddy, like I said, along with a new animatronic Lefty, and one known as Scrap Trap, basically just a really run-down Springtrap William Afton. Lefty is actually an acronym and was meant to trap the puppet, last seen in FNAF 3 Before the Fire, and it's revealed that this whole pizzeria was really a trap set out by the other owner of Fazbear Entertainment, Henry Emily, the father of Charlotte, the one who died in FNAF 2's minigames and possesses the puppet. And while us as Michael, Henry, the puppet, Scrap Baby, and Molten Freddy burn in the fire, Scrap Trap is able to escape, but the resulting damage puts him in a coma, which brings us to the next game. FNAF 7, known as Ultimate Custom Night, is the capstone to the original story. Afton is in a hospital in a coma, unable to die even after being taken off life support, and he's being tormented much like how his son was when he was in a coma in FNAF 4. The reason Afton isn't dead is thanks to a spirit that's possessing him, keeping him alive, known as the one you should not have killed. There are debates as to who this character is, perhaps Cassidy, the one who's possessing Golden Freddy. However, I personally believe that it's Crying Child, his son, who was causing his father to suffer like he did, since his death was on his father's hands, because, you know, you kind of superpowered an animatronic jaw. That's really all to the story of this game, since this is where we learn about various other lore bits that really just explain some other things in the series, like that I've already covered at this point, thanks to voice lines by characters that they say after you die. For example, this is where we learn that the Nightmare animatronics never actually had physical forms, or that Chica's victim named Susie was the first of the missing children to die, but not the first death overall. That's still Henry's daughter Charlotte, who possesses the puppet. And we thought that this is where Afton's story would end, but haha, in FNAF 6, known as FNAF Help Wanted, he's back. This time as sentient code in the form of Glitch Trap or Malhare, whatever you prefer to call him. In this game, which is actually a game in the FNAF universe as well, a VR game to be exact, he is considered a virus, and his code is split into 16 pieces, all contained on various audio tapes that you can find within the game. The main point of this game is to assemble these tapes, but doing so results in him returning to full power and taking over your body, locking you in your own mind. Our player character in this game, Vanessa, then goes on to become the antagonist of Security Breach, where half of her is herself, but another part is William Afton controlling her and calling herself Vanny, dressing like a bunny, similar to how Afton did when he was alive and wanting to kill. The latest game in the series, Security Breach, is more so a soft reboot of the series, with the canon ending just being as confusing as the whole timeline. Afton somehow has a body again in the form of Burn Trap, Vanny is left in the wind at the end, and Gregory, our player character, is the most mysterious kid yet. But it was mostly to set up where the series could go next, since Scott announced his retirement before the game came out, and whoever takes over next can now go whatever route they choose. They can bring Afton back, they can leave him dead, they can use Vanny as the antagonist, or go on to use the newly introduced blob of black goo with Funtime Freddy's face. It's a world of possibilities, and I'm not making another video like this when the next game comes out, so use this one, okay, then learn the next one on your own.
And at number 10, in-universe games. The knowledge that Scott Cawthon's in-universe counterpart has made games about the Fazbear restaurants in the FNAF universe has been driving us, or more particularly me, crazy ever since we learned about it in Help Wanted. Literally Help Wanted's opening scene. What games are the ones he made? Were they the original FNAF games? Does anything we've done up until this point in the games actually matter? Well, it seems like Security Breach might have actually at least kind of explained it, with a single machine known as Mangle's Quest, which, if you don't remember, is one of the mini games that you had to play in order to unlock the good ending of FNAF 3 and the Happiest Day minigame. I guess Technically though, that has even more implications. If to release the souls of children, we had to actually like glitch out an actual game, but that's a discussion for another day. I'm not talking about that now. Unit 9, toy animatronics. Has Security Breach actually wrapped up the story of the toy animatronics? It's possible. I mean, this idea has been out there for a while, really ever since Glamrock Chica was revealed. But could the toy animatronics actually have been reused or repurposed into the Glamrock animatronics, or at least parts of them being used? And actually it would make sense, considering how these animatronics seem to also have like a security database. Oh my god, wait, no, they actually do have a security database. Freddy straight up pulls Gregory out of his stomach and then like looks at him and says, I cannot locate you. There's no profile for you. So yeah, they have a security database. They don't like seem to have one, they actually have one. Just like the toys from FNAF 2. They would scan a criminal database to see if anyone was willing to commit murders. But with facial recognition and conveniently the same glitches that allowed them to misidentify William, allowing them to not identify Vanny, since Freddy is unable to see Vanny without Roxy's eyes. Which begs the question, could the other animatronics see her? Or like, is it just Roxy? And if the last versions of the toy animatronics were so terrible at their job, because I mean, like, at this point they know they were, and I guess like maybe they were like, oh yeah, no, it's because William programmed them, so that's why they were terrible. But like, still, why would you reuse that? Why would you risk it again? That seems like a absolutely abysmal idea. And at 8, alligator mask. Now, my original idea was that the man in room 1280 took place after FNAF 6's fire, and that's how William became Glitch Trap. However, it's seeming more and more that the man in room 1280 actually takes place after Security Breach. After all, I mean, like, it would explain why the one you should not have killed is wearing an alligator mask, since it would be Monty if this does take place after, since there wasn't really an alligator animatronic beforehand, and there's no way that an alligator mask is Happy Frog, okay? Just saying. And considering how Freddy runs off with Gregory at the end of the game, Monty would be left to run the show. I mean, we actually like see this happen in a newspaper article at the end of the good ending, the one where you go through the loading dock that required level 7 clearance, and you just like Gregory somehow drives a van with Freddy and then uses the battery to jumpstart Freddy. Yeah, that ending, we see that since Freddy's gone, Monty ends up running the show. And Vanessa even uses this as a threat to try to convince Freddy to give us up when he's in parts in service. You know, when his like head is disconnected and we have to reconnect it. So a kid wearing a Monty mask after the canon ending of Security Breach would explain a lot. It would make a lot of sense. It would also explain the reason why Afton's body isn't burnt horrifically like it's supposed to be in the Man in Room 1280 in FNAF 9, because like that he hasn't done that yet. I mean, it also explains why it's called Burn Trap. At least we know he didn't escape the FNAF 6 pizzeria like everyone thought he had though, right? And at 7, Ultimate Custom Night. Ultimate Custom Night was actually a pretty dividing point among FNAF fans and theorists alike. Some thought that it was Afton in Hell, others thought that it was a coma, but we now have a definitive answer. Assuming it does take place between Security Breach and FNAF 6, as the release of the games would indicate, it would actually mean that Ultimate Custom Night is what Burn Trap is seeing while unconscious in the recharge station. Perhaps it's him keeping himself from dying in the recharge station, like a mind kind of fight thing, like whenever a main character dies in a show and they have to fight back to get to their body. Yeah, that kind of thing. And we don't actually see him wake up until he beats 50-20 mode, and then he comes after us like we see in the true ending to the game. So basically, we get down there, and as soon as we activate it, he beats 50-20 mode. This actually makes sense given that Scrap Trap is in Ultimate Custom Night, since this would sort of be like a nightmare sequence with Scrap Trap serving as what William is dealing with in these moments, or I guess his misdeeds, or his wickedness made of flesh, as Nightmare puts it. But you know, the whole aftermath of the FNAF 6 fire, and then returning to that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, either because of like Charlotte being there and he wanted to kill her, or maybe just some other thing that Henry had to do to actually lure Afton back. We don't actually know what that was, but either way, he had to deal with it, and it makes sense as to why now. And it's 6 brothers. Now this is something that Matt Pat actually talked about in his recent FNAF Theory video that went out on January 1st, 2022. However, this is something I have been calling for ages. Ever since we learned Gregory's name, ever since that Funko statue was leaked, I have been saying that their relationship is very brotherly. It was awfully similar to Michael and the crying child. Especially when the older brother is represented by, or maybe even now possessing, the Glam Rock Freddy animatronic, when it was a version of a Freddy animatronic that killed his little brother in the first place. And before you get all mad at me saying, oh no, that was Fredbear. Fredbear is a version of Freddy, okay? Go away. Fredbear is literally a version of Freddy. Back off. The fact that this is so solid after the game comes out, it kind of explains that what happened actually did happen. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that now we're trying to make up for it, to reconcile. And if Gregory ends up actually being a robot crying child, you all owe me a coffee. Because I've been calling that one for ages too. I have been saying that for so long, and so many people got mad at me. But look at this, Matt Pat says it, and I saw no hate comments on the top, at the top comments, okay, on that video. I saw no hate. Halfway through into number 5, the FNAF 6 Fire. FNAF 6 acted as the narrative ending for many animatronics. The fun times in Molten Freddy, the puppet inside of Lefty, Scrap Baby, and even us as Michael Afton. But the secret true ending to this game actually shows us the aftermath of this fire. We see the aftermath of FNAF 3's Fire in Sister Location's final cutscene, with Springtrap popping out of the ruins of Fazbear Fright, and this time around we learn about the third last game's fire in this ending. Since, as Matt Pat pointed out in his recent theory, as well as many people have pointed out in the comments of various videos and Reddit posts, the pizzeria you're in for this secret ending looks a hell of a lot like the one that we make, or like the base for the one we make in Pizzeria Simulator. And since it burns down, basically it doesn't matter which one you made, this is what it would burn down to. Which honestly explains why William was in the recharge station. Okay, they didn't actually have to move his body. Which actually, it makes sense. Finally, something in this godforsaken series makes sense. Something makes sense in a FNAF game. Praise the Lord. But this also means that he hasn't been taken to the hospital yet for the man in room 1280 to occur. This idea that this is the FNAF 6 pizzeria also ends up solidifying when you see that the blob is like the new Ennard, with all of the different animatronics from FNAF 6 present when you actually like take a look closer and even like clip inside of it. There's a video for it. Many people have done this on YouTube, but you can like see the Scrap Baby mask, you can see the Puppet's mask. Yeah, combine this with, you know, the fact that Springtrap is here, or I guess Burn Trap or Scrap Trap, whatever, okay? The fact that William in some form of animatronic Golden Bunny is here, and you get an explanation for what happened after the FNAF 6 fire. In at 4, Princess Quest. The inclusion of Princess Quest in the Help Wanted mobile port is a pretty little minigame added since they couldn't really include the full glitch trap and 16 tapes thing in a phone game. So they added Princess Quest's 16 braziers, and then they all came together to form a form of glitch trap at the end. This seemed like a simple way to include everything when it first came out, but now we have a whole new lease on this idea. Since, with Security Breach, the way to get the best ending, even though it's not canon, is through these Princess Quest arcade machines. But they've been ported from a mobile game into arcade cabinets. We learn this in one of the various lore duffel bags that we can find throughout the game. One in Bonnie Bowl says that they ported Princess Quest 1 from an old mobile game. Why port to arcade? It's a very good question. But these Princess Quest games are really what's holding Vanessa back from reclaiming her body, which we see happen in the best ending, hence why it's the best ending. Getting close to the end, in number 3, spirits. One of the major issues with FNAF for some is the inconsistency of the whole spirits are real, but they aren't the ones doing the actual possession thing. Since in FNAF 3's minigames, we see the physical spirits of the original 5 missing children, and then in Fazbear Fright, we learn that agony and emotions are what actually cause possession in this world. So how could there be those actual physical spirits if it was just their emotions causing the suits to move? And while originally we might have just chalked it up to maybe there being other emotions or even just like William hallucinating, with Security Breach and specifically the rooftop ending, I think we have a better idea. Since in the rooftop ending we end up seeing Vanny dead on the ground and then we unmask her and it reveals Vanessa. And then a couple seconds later we see Vanessa looking down at her body on top of the building, just watching herself. Yeah, that's definitely not a problem at all. Thanks, Scott. This could mean, though, that there are only spirits when the person regrets what they've done. Since the kids in the original suits terrorized so many others, maybe they ended up actually feeling bad about it, even though they couldn't really control it because it was their emotions controlling the suits. But maybe they still felt bad about what was going on, and then that's why they had spirits. Regret. It's a powerful thing. But ultimately, in at number 2, the Blob. Okay, so what I'm talking about here, as opposed to the FNAF 6 ending, which I mentioned before, is not what the Blob is meant to do, but something else entirely. Here, I'm explaining that the Blob in this game actually explains the blob of tentacle goo that comprises Baby, introduced in the final few Fazbear Frights books. This blob actually explains why that whole thing was introduced and explored and why it happened. Because it's setting up yet another f***ing antagonist for the future of the FNAF games. As long as the next owner of the IP wants to go in that direction, that is. Because now, they got 3. They can go with William, they can go with Vanny, or they can go with the Blob, or hell, they can go backwards and make an entirely new character for all we know. And even if they don't want to go that way, they can wrap up William's story first and then move on to someone else. Like, I mean, Scott and Steel Wool did leave a death animation for William unused in the files, and I doubt that it's going to be used for a potential DLC. Because first we need a few updates for the game. But there's no way that they wouldn't capitalize on an obscure ending like that for another game. Because like, there's no way that they would officially kill William off. I want it to happen, but it's not gonna happen. I wouldn't be surprised if Scott's like been working with the person taking over for the endings of this game to see which one fits where they want to go next the best. Hence why there are so many endings. Scott was like, okay, pick one. Actually, no, I doubt that. I feel like Scott was like, this is the true ending. You gotta work with this. But here are other ones to help guide you. And finally, into number 1, the Help Wanted ending. Now, while the whole glitch trap shouldn't be possible thing is a whole other can of worms that I'm not going to explore, I think that Security Breach, and more so the Princess Quest ending, perfectly explains the Help Wanted ending. You need to beat the first game, then you beat the second game, and then you choose the Vanny ending, and instead of pushing the button to disassemble Vanny, you play the third Princess Quest game. This will result in the player actually saving Vanessa, as long as you beat the third one, and then finding Vanny's mask on the floor. But how did that really save Vanessa, you ask? Well, actually, it's fairly simple. Help Wanted. If you've seen any of my videos where I discuss the endings of Help Wanted and how when we complete that puzzle in the final battle we get locked behind a door, you'll know that I said that that's us being distracted so that William has an opportunity to actually shut us away in our own mind. So if we do the thing that we do to actually beat him when he's attacking us, we're just distracted enough so that he wins even more. And that he does. But this Princess Quest ending actually really proves me right. Since the end of Princess Quest 3, you open a giant door with a large keyhole surrounded by glitching cracks and purple stuff. And in Help Wanted, we get sealed behind a giant door with a large keyhole with cracks around it and even handprints on the inside. This with the obvious connection via Princess Quest to Help Wanted, because, you know, Princess Quest was the mobile version of the 16 tapes. This is us releasing the player from Help Wanted, who consequentially ends up being Vanessa from the wall that Afton set up, since after this door closes we see her mask on the floor, and even sit on a hill with Vanessa and Freddy's head, which is a whole other can of worms, which makes MatPat think that Gregory is crying child, Freddy is Mike, and that Vanessa is Elizabeth Afton, which we've been calling for months. I feel like we've been calling that for a year, but...
The worst ending. The worst ending is actually the second one I got, with the Phaser Quest ending being the first. But this ending is just if you leave the Pizzaplex at 6 a.m. through the front doors. However, this is labeled as the worst ending for very good reason, since after escaping, Gregory obviously runs away from the Pizzaplex, but he doesn't seem to go to any house. Instead, he finds a cardboard box in an alleyway and uses newspaper talking about the children who've gone missing at the Pizzaplex as a blanket, with a silhouette of what looks a lot like him in the bottom left corner, might I add. But it doesn't seem to matter though, since a red light comes on and we see Vanny's shadow appear in front of us. She finally ended up getting us. Now, this actually has a little bit to unpack, because firstly, if Gregory has a home, why didn't he run back there? I mean, like, yeah, it's later and he's been up for a while, but even if I was stuck in a pizzeria for 6 hours and almost died multiple times and was finally able to escape, I don't care if my house is on the other side of the planet, okay? I'm booking it as far as I possibly can. The fact that he hides in a box and then uses a newspaper as a blanket to sleep. Also, he uses that absolutely horribly, might I add. Like, bro, just turn it 90 degrees and you'd actually have a decent blanket. It would cover your body. And like, maybe Vanny wouldn't have found you that way. Like, I know that it was for readability in the ending, but whatever, okay? I don't care. Him hiding in a cardboard box, though, seems very similar to how I thought of homelessness as a child. Just like, grab a box and use it as your shelter. It's also how cartoons seem to depict it a lot. This leads me to believe that he has no home, only adding to the confusion and mystery of his character. Like, how the ever-loving hell does that work? Like, even if he is an orphan, he would have been taken to an orphanage. I don't know how many kids actually run away from orphanages, cause like, it's either that or this. So, I don't know, it makes who he is even more of a mystery, since we know nothing about him other than he probably went to the pizzeria to try and find the missing kids, since he's using it as a blanket. Next up, the good ending. The good ending is probably the least lore heavy of all the endings, which makes it a simple explanation. With a level 7 security pass, or I guess 7 level 1 passes, since we collect a new one every time and don't really get a better one, maybe. If you go to the loading dock, which is next to the trash compactor that you would have found if you went to the bottom of the map instead of through L chips when first entering the atrium to leave, there was a door that previously couldn't open. But this time, Gregory and Freddy will escape in a van, as long as you have level 7 security. Gregory will be driving the van, but Freddy will eventually run out of power. However, Gregory will actually solve this power issue by loading up Freddy with the charge from the car's battery using jumper cables. Now, how Gregory, a 6 or 10 or whatever year old kid, has any idea of how not only to connect the jumper cables properly to the battery, then connect them to Freddy is one thing, okay? Like, maybe he's like a kid who really likes cars. But this still adds more confusion, because like, how does this little kid know so goddamn much? If he's around 6 like I've been thinking since the start of the game, because like he can fit in strollers and is so short that he can't drive the go-karts on his own, there has to be something more going on here than him just being a gearhead. Like, how can he fit in a stroller but also reach the pedals for the frickin' van, dude? What? Next, Princess Quest. This is probably my favorite ending in the whole game because it's something that I was cluing into before I read anything about the other endings to the game, which I only did once I actually beat it because I wanted to make videos like this. Princess Quest ending has to be set up for a decent amount of time before you actually finish the game, since the player needs to locate and beat all 3 Princess Quest arcade machines. The third one is in Vanny's room above Phaser Blast. The second is where you find Music Man Spider, or DJ Music Man for those who aren't cool like I am. And the final is in Roxy's Raceway, in like the beauty salon thing, which I didn't actually check because I didn't think that would be a thing. Now, you have to beat Phaser Quest to be able to get this ending because you need to discover the room that has the third game in it. So you need to find Vanny's room, and this is what triggers the Phaser Quest ending. And as I was thinking, you need to beat the first game, and then beat the second game, and then choose the Vanny ending and play the third one. This will result in the player actually saving Vanessa, and thus finding Vanny's mask on the floor. How did that save Vanessa, you ask? Like, all we did was beat arcade games? Well, it's actually fairly simple. Help Wanted. If you've seen any of the videos where I discuss the endings of Help Wanted and then how we complete the puzzle and like the final battle and we get locked behind the door, you'll know that I said that us doing that puzzle thing was just to distract us, so that William had more of an opportunity to shut us away in our own mind. And seemingly he does that. And Princess Quest actually proves me right, since at the end of Princess Quest 3, you open a giant door with a large keyhole surrounded by glitching cracks. And in Help Wanted, we get sealed behind a door with a large keyhole along with cracks and handprints. This with the obvious connection via Princess Quest to Help Wanted, because it was ported into the flat mobile port of the game, because they couldn't actually include Glitch Trap due to size limitations, because you know it's a phone game. So us opening that door is releasing the player from Help Wanted, who now is confirmed to be Vanessa, from the wall that Afton set up. Since after this door opens, we see her mask on the floor and even sit on a hill with Vanessa and Freddy's head in the final shot of that ending, which is similar to the final shot of the canon ending. This is truly the best ending, but it's unfortunately not the canon one. Next up, Phaser Quest. While having this ending unlocked is required for the Princess Quest ending, that's because you need to access the Princess Quest minigame. But without playing the other two, you can't play the third. So this ending actually ends up killing Vanny. Since without the game, you have to make your way up to her room and hit the button that turns the animatronics against her. And since she has just had them disassemble Freddy, we as Gregory tell the animatronics to disassemble her, which results in the first killing to be committed by an actual kid in this game series, because they literally tear her to shreds. We don't see her corpse, which leads me to think that maybe it would have been too gory, or because it would have been revealed that Vanny was an animatronic, but I don't think that it would have been the latter. I think that it just would have been too gory, because like Freddy is absolutely destroyed when you see that. That would have been not pretty. But more on that other idea later, because there's another ending that indicates that there's more going on here than you realize. Get it? Because that's what Vanny says in the trailer. Next, the Springtrap ending. The Springtrap ending, or the canon ending, or true ending, whatever you want to call it, is unlocked, as I figured it was going to be, by finding the secret elevator and the secret section in Roxy's Raceway. It's down the stairs next to where you find the test driver head. Instead of actually getting the head, you just go to the left and go down the stairs. This requires your Freddy to have the Monty Claws, however, so this is potentially unlockable right after installing them, since that's when you're given the mission to go to Roxy's Raceway. You can also do this if you choose to stay after completing the game, however that will result in you having to deal with Monty's boss battle in one go without saving, since save states are disabled after you could have escaped, so it's less likely that that's gonna happen. After making your way into Burn Trap's area though, Freddy will be taken over by Springtrap using code, or at least he starts to try to take over him, and it's up to Gregory to defeat him by using 3 monitors, and you gotta press the buttons to burn him. The player will also need to avoid the animatronic enemies that are coming for Gregory and use the doors to temporarily lock them out. When Springtrap is finally burned though, the Blob, which was the tentacle monster from the very first Freddy and Friends cartoon, will attack him, making sure that he doesn't get free. Freddy and Gregory will be shown escaping and sitting on a hill together, and I think my original theory about this was right. This tentacle monster was never revealed or never had anything else that had to do with them, but after this game, the final Fazbear Frights book would have originally released, so it would have been after this, but due to delays, the game came out after the final books were released that showed us what the tentacle monster would have been about, and it's how it's in fact Baby, or I guess Elizabeth Afton, who stopped her father but probably will be the one controlling Vanny now, since in the canon ending, Vanny doesn't actually die, and I think that that's worth noting. And finally, the rooftop ending. The rooftop ending is unlocked by exiting the Pizzaplex through the prize counter and clicking leave. This will prompt Freddy to burn the place to the ground and for the two of you to escape onto the roof. I don't know what Freddy's original plan was, because like I don't think he would fit on the fire escape. Maybe he would just jump down and then you'd take the fire escape. But when Gregory gets to the roof, Vanny is seemingly there waiting for us somehow. She grabs us, but Freddy, with his new eyes, actually sees Vanny now and jumps with her off of the roof, causing them both to fall. They both seemingly die, or I guess Vanny dies and Freddy is just inoperational, and we take off Vanny's mask, revealing Vanessa behind it. We look confused and the comic ends. However, before actually ending and showing us the final news clipping, another couple panels are shown, with Vanessa standing up on the rooftop looking down at what just happened. This is probably one of the most confusing endings since it shows us that there are apparently two Vanessas, and while we seemingly knew about the whole like double life thing, we hadn't exactly seen the two characters in the same room again, so we thought that there was only one of them. And in the Princess Quest ending, we seemingly save Vanny, so what the hell is going on here? The simplest answer has us sounding like a middle school English teacher, with symbolism being always an option in this series. And with Scott, I think that this is probably the right place to talk symbolism, because it's FNAF. Unlike Shakespeare though, he didn't mean anything. Now, this is probably not actually two Vanessas. It could just simply be Vanessa's soul looking down at her body. We know that souls are actually a thing in this universe thanks to FNAF 3's cutscenes where Purple Guy gets spring trapped. Those souls had physical forms that caused him to freak out. This could just be Vanessa regretting all the things she did as Vanny, even if it was unwilling. This could also just be more than that as well, where there could legitimately be two different Vanessas, with one either being a robot or from another universe, since we have the whole Fazbear fanverse initiative, and the multiple endings indicates that there are multiple universes already, or they could just be twins, but I think it would be more cool if Vanny is a robot. Like, I hated this theory in the early days, mostly because people were treating it as fact. However, in the previously discussed canon or Springtrap ending, we did have to fight off Springtrap, but we have to do it as Gregory since, like I said, he takes control over Freddy. But why didn't he take control over us? This man, more than anyone, should know that you always gotta get rid of the kids, because they're always gonna be the ones to screw you. So like, why didn't he just like take control of Freddy and like keep us inside, or take control of both of us if he could? I mean, he had Roxy under his control in that same scene, right? So we know that he can control multiple things, and I think it's probably because no matter what, he can only possess robotic beings. Combine this seemingly obvious limit with the fact that Vanny doesn't start bleeding after hitting the ground, and you have some solid evidence, but I'm sure that it was just her soul looking back at what she did, fire surrounding her so that she actually makes sure she dies, because you know, Remnant can only be killed by fire. And in 9, Springlock suits. The original animatronics featured Springlock suits that had to be hand cranked to allow them to be worn safely by employees. This was something we already knew based on FNAF 3 minigames, but it's nice to get confirmation anyway. The original animatronic suits were Springlock suits that could be worn by employees in suit mode or put into robot mode to allow them to perform on stage. This also confirms that the item we see in Purple Guy's hand in FNAF 2 is in fact a Springlock crank like we've been assuming, although we did at first think that it was a phone. But now we have a better understanding, although this proposes another idea. If that was a Springlock crank, does that mean that the animatronics Purple Guy was disassembling in those minigames were actually Springlock suits? Because if that was the case, we would have a whole other reason as to how the missing children died, because that would certainly be more agonizing than like a knife through the chest or something. And it ate yummy pizza. Fazbear's Twisted Pizza recipe was voted most yummy by 6 out of 10 children in every survey from 1988 to 1993. This gives us a bit more insight into the actual locations present within the FNAF universe. The existence of a Twisted Pizza also implies that this is what the Twisted animatronics were named after, and it actually makes some form of sense, at least to my twisted brain. Since if the pizza was voted the most yummy and the animatronics were meant to show you something that you wanted to see, I guess your eyes would also consider those animatronics to be the most yummy. But this could also just be an indication as to the years the Twisted animatronics were operational, since we do get the years of 1988 to 1993, which seems to line up with the events of the books and the games. Since Scott is clever in hiding Easter eggs and explanations, maybe this is what he had in mind when writing this fast fact. And at 7, first location. The first location of the Freddy's franchise was actually Fredbear's Family Diner. This was also something that was merely an assumption until this point, but for a while we considered the Fredbear's Family Diner to be the first location, so at least we get some more timeline confirmations there. It's interesting though that Scott chose to confirm this particular location instead of something else that could have had more significance, which leads me to assume that there might be more to Fredbear's Family Diner than we first imagined, and that there might be more to take a look at here. The diner makes an appearance in FNAF 2 and 3 according to the wiki, although it appears that the Take Cake minigame does happen at the FNAF 2 location thanks to the security puppet minigame from FNAF 6, so maybe we should be taking a closer and more intense look at the FNAF 3 minigames to see if there's anything else we can find. And at 6, the creator. The famous William Afton is the man responsible for the creation of the animatronics we all know and love. This is something that has actually been bugging me for a while, because while the books have William as a creator, we weren't sure if he was the creator or just a technician in the games. So with this line confirming William as a creator, we may be able to go back and fine-tune some of our speculation with this new information. Since he is a creator, he probably would be the only one who knew how to deal with these animatronics, so the possibility of another technician is now lower than it was at first. Him hiding the bodies in the suits suddenly becomes more plausible, as nobody would really understand how to open them, and the FNAF VR parts and service minigames become more telling, because while yes, they could have been made by the studio, the sheer complexity of them seems to indicate that William had a hand in instructing them on where to take the minigame. Perhaps this was truly how William had set up these animatronics to work, so nobody would be able to mess with this hiding spot. Because I mean, like, why would you press both sides of Bonnie's head? Like, why would you pull on Freddy's bow to get his chest to open? Just doesn't make sense. And at 5, first animatronics. Some of the first animatronics built by William Afton featured claw mechanisms that were able to hide away items inside them. This is one of the best Faz facts we got, because thanks to this line, we know that William intended on killing even before acquiring Fredbear's Family Diner, since that was the first location, and the only animatronics we see have a claw mechanism are the ones from Sister Location. Baby is the only one we actually see use the claw, but with containment chambers being present, we can assume the other Fun Times have them as well. Which means the Fun Times were made before they opened the first Freddy Fazbear's location, hence why William was able to open Circus Baby's so quickly when he learned that Fazbear's was going to close. Which means if not for Baby's line of being on stage for one day, we wouldn't really know when Sister Location takes place, or at least we would have to question it. And at 4, dangerous. In 1993, the most dangerous profession in the United States was actually night security guard. This seems to just be a funny nod at how many people die in the Fazbear restaurants, because the actual most dangerous profession from 1993 in the US was, at least based on number of deaths per 100k employed, was fishers. But based on just sheer amount of deaths, it was operators, fabricators, and laborers, with nearly 2,000 deaths. So if night security guard was actually the most dangerous job, more than 1,959 security guards would have needed to die in the FNAF universe, which is incredible to say the least. However, if we're going off the number of deaths per 100,000 employed, over 159 security guards would have needed to die, which is a much more reasonable yet still shocking number. This is also not including the fact that the president is technically the deadliest job in the US, since a high number have been assassinated. That's just an even higher percentage, but we don't talk about that. Getting close to the end, in number 3, location confirmed. Despite the name, hurricanes are actually not the leading cause of death of children in Hurricane, Utah. This is a more specific confirmation of the location that the game takes place in, since Utah was the state that things had been narrowed down to thanks to the pay stubs we get in the games, but this just places it in Hurricane, Utah. Now, I don't think that there's much else to be learned from this. I don't think that like Scott pulled like a Gravity Falls with a real scavenger hunt that was planned or that was started in Hurricane, but I can't really rule it out, because at this point, we've jumped through hoops more than starving dolphins at SeaWorld to get lore, so a real life issue, or like a real life scavenger hunt like this, would probably be in the cards, at least if Scott hadn't announced his retirement. But I think that since these Faz facts were found in the game files and were unused, that means if there was an ARG or scavenger hunt planned, it's no longer in the works. Who knows though, maybe you'll find like a Woodland Freddy statue or something out in the woods. At least if it was started. Are there woods in Utah? I don't know. Can we get the King of Random on this? Just go out looking. I'll join. Penultimately, in at number 2, Cupcake. Chica's Cupcake features a unique set of servos and its own independent suite of software. This is the Faz fact that was the foundation of my explanation as to where a Shadow Chica would have gone. The fact that the Cupcake is its own separate animatronic means that it could be possessed separate to Chica. So if there was ever a reason for Shadow Chica, or if the Shadow animatronics are spirits that somehow got kicked out of their animatronics, Chica's Shadow could have just been hiding in the Cupcake. But the Cupcake being their own animatronic is also something we've already known, since in FNAF VR's parts and service minigame, you see the Cupcake jump off its plate and run around before you can catch it and put it back on the plate. The Cupcake also got its own jump scare in FNAF 4, but that could have also just been Chica like holding it up or like throwing it at you, but I doubt it at this point. Finally, in at number 1, I wanna be a rock star. Man, Bonnie's playing Nickelback. Rockstar Bonnie was developed from the original Bonnie for use in Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria's franchise operations. This is something that is highly interesting, but not really of big consequence. The fact that Rockstar Bonnie is a development of original Bonnie indicates that maybe the original animatronics weren't melted down in the games. Sure, Candy Cadet speaks of 5 things becoming one thing, but maybe that wasn't referring to the fun times at all, since in the books, the fun times were created by melting down the endoskeletons of the original 5 animatronics to make Remnant, which is the molten soul metal, but all the metals mixed together into one horrific mess, hence why they had to come together into Ennard. Also, we also got a confirmation that the fun times were the first animatronics that William made, so he wouldn't have made the other ones first, therefore they wouldn't be possessed, at least in the game world. So if the Rockstar animatronics are the original animatronics just refurbished, maybe this isn't the case, and the FNAF 3 ending was accurate with the souls being put to rest, which would mean that Golden Freddy is at rest, meaning that the one you should not have killed couldn't be Cassidy. At least that's how it seems to me. But this could also be a misinterpretation, and they just meant that it was designed to be like the original Bonnie instead of using the same parts. It's not specific enough, but it does actually sound like they are meant to be the same parts, or at least the endoskeleton is the same. And again, with the fun times being first, that means that like they couldn't be possessed by the original 5. I mean, that's how it's looking at this point, at least until Lumix says that these aren't canon, if they end up saying that they aren't canon. Five Nights at Freddy's is a cultural icon, even though the first game came out in 2014. Since then, we've had a plethora of new robots to scare our pants off while they devour our limbs. But which ones are the worst? That's what we're exploring with today's list of the top 10 scary FNAF animatronics. If you're new here or haven't yet, be sure you hit like and subscribe for daily gaming content and ring that bell to join the clan and level up. And at 10, Reaper Puppet. While the Reaper Puppet may not be canon to the Five Nights series, he originates from a popular fan-made game series called Final Nights. Reaper Puppet is one of the main antagonists in Final Nights 3 Nightmares Awoken, where he will climb over a railing to get into your hospital room. He also returns in the final game of the series, Final Nights 4 Fates Entwined, where he looks even more gruesome. In the third game, he looks similar to the puppet we all know and Night Marionette combined. His legs are curled like Ursula's tentacles, and the arms are so thin they're worse than mine. He has sharp fingers that in all honesty appear tree-like, where his legs are the roots and his arms are the branches. The way he just climbs towards the door is so creepy, and you need to confront him to get him to leave. And in the fourth game, he looks like the puppet mixed with Jeff the Killer, like Night Marionette on some form of substance that would be classified as illegal and might have a similar name to that of a famous soda brand. And at 9, Toy Chica. Toy Chica is a simple animatronic, but a scary one. Equipped with security functions that allow it to scan everyone it sees, anyone in the sex offender shuffle is luckily going to stay far away from the pizzeria. But if you manage to get by, the actual design of the thing will be enough to make you leave. Chica is a chicken, which means that they have beaks, but Toy Chica doesn't have a beak. Sure, it starts off having a beak, but by the time it would help you, the damn thing is gone. Plus, don't even get me started on the fact that the majority of pictures that pop up when you Google Toy Chica are things that kids should not be seeing. Get your cupcake away from there! It doesn't belong there! Stop it! First appearing in Five Nights 2 and later Ultimate Custom Night, Toy Chica is just god-awful without the beak. How could it fall off in the first place? It's attached to your face. And at 8, Ennard. Ennard is literally the insides of 5 different animatronics, basically just walking around with his guts and the guts of 4 other people visible to anyone who wants to see, or doesn't want to see. Plus, there's also the fact that to escape from sister location, they scoop out your guts and replace them with themselves, making you their flesh suit while also infusing you with the remnant metal. So even after they've noped out of you, your rotting corpse can still walk around and become the Garden Pizzeria Simulator. Plus, when he takes that mask off, it's just like 3 eyes. Yeah, 3 eyes with one hanging off his cheek. It's too much. I can't. No. I think the worst part is that he ends up having to insert himself into you like some weird kinky crap, but then ejects himself to go find a new fresh flesh suit. Hey, that's kind of like a tongue twister. New fresh flesh suit. Man, that's hard. Oh, and the damn nightmare version I saw when I googled him, even if it's just fan-made, I can't anymore. This looks worse than Pennywise. He looks like a clown with a stash of pillows under his floorboard with his victims in the attic. I can't. I don't know why I said the pillows. I did though. And it's 7 Biddy Bap. The Biddy Baps are a pair of tiny animatronics appearing in Sister Location that could also have up to 7 members of the little Biddy cult or whatever it is. The 2 we see are only active in Night 2 during the game. They're small, baby-like animatronics with pale skin and oddly colored eyes. At the beginning of Sister Location, you hide under a desk while you hear the 2 talking about stuff you only listen to if you're MatPat. Then need to fight to keep the door closed as they try to push through. The fact that you can see their eyes poking through while you're fighting to close the door only makes it worse. This is by far one of the most intense moments of the series. Plus, it's the purest form of nightmare fuel, especially if you're a parent. To watch these things peel their face off to reveal their animatronic interiors, I just can't. It feels wrong. And it's 6 Music Man. This guy is always smiling, and not like the good kind of smiling that gives you the rev of always being happy, but literally showing all your teeth with your mouth in like a rectangle smile. This animatronic is one of the purchasable products in Pizzeria Simulator. He can be found in the rare finds auction section of the catalog, and can also be unlocked by fishing him out of the ball pit tower minigame. He made a return in Ultimate Custom Night as one of the selectable characters, as they all did. Activating this character will cause him to spawn behind you. He's sound sensitive, meaning that if you make noise, he will crash his cymbals together. The more noise you make, the faster the crashing, until eventually he just jump scares the hell out of you. Music Man can be activated by Phantom Mangle and Mangle's Gargles, Phone Guy Calls, the Monitor, and the Fan. The Fan. This guy is basically a musical spider, and if I wanted to deal with that, I watch Charlotte's Web. If you've seen other videos, you'll know I hate spiders, and this is honestly just terrible. And he's behind you and you can't see him, which makes it even worse. You have to go off sound, and if you're trying to do like the 20-20-20-20 thing, like no. And at 5, Nightmare Mangle. Nightmare Mangle is the really screwed up version of Mangle who first appeared in the Halloween update for Five Nights at Freddy's 4. Sure, original Mangle is scary, with a jaw that can unhinge and the one who caused the bite of 87, but this Nightmare Mangle takes it to a whole new level of terror. Removing what can only be described as flesh, you see the horrifying internal endoskeleton of the animatronic. Throw on a few extra arms, legs, and even heads, and you'll be spooking me for days. In FNAF 4, this replaces Nightmare Foxy in the closet, so make sure you keep checking that, otherwise you'll be screwed. But it also makes an appearance in Ultimate Custom Night, since again, they literally all do. In Ultimate Custom Night, Nightmare Mangle comes down the right hall, but you can prevent it from entering the office by buying the Funtime Foxy plushie from the prize corner. If you don't though, it's one of the scariest jump scares in the game, but mostly because of the extra head. And at 4, Scrap Baby. Sometime between the events of the 5th and 6th game, Baby ends up getting kicked out of the Ennard clan. There's a conversation in the source code of Scott Cawthon's 2 websites to back this up, where Baby is getting voted off the island. After this, Baby somehow finds a way to rebuild her shell, and finds her way to the back alley of Pizzeria Simulator trying to get inside, and failing until you bring her in. Scrap Baby is terrifying. Being horribly disfigured and knocked down, the player has to salvage the animatronic, since that's the whole point of the game. But when she attacks, oh my god, it's terrifying and very intense. In Ultimate Custom Night, she has a very interesting gameplay mechanic where she is sitting next to the desk slumped over. There is a panel next to her that allows you to shock her at the cost of 1% of power. This won't make a difference until she has moved. If she has, shocking her will cause her to leave and never return. But if you don't notice, she will jump scare you the next time you bring up your monitor. And at 3, Jacko Chica. This is the scariest version of Chica by far. Sure, there is a Jacko Bonnie, but the Chica is just the worst. It's a nightmare version of Chica, but with fiery eyes and stomach. Oh my god. In Ultimate Custom Night, this version has some damn creepy lines. After getting killed by Jacko Chica, you can hear things like, "The fire within me burns eternal and now yours shall as well," and "I am a burning reminder of your misdeeds," which is totally fun, you know? But they also replaced Chica's cupcake with a jack-o'-lantern. Come on, the cupcake was the best part! This is for sure the scariest thing about the animatronic. Forget the torn flesh, glowing cracks, eyes, and rows of teeth. Okay, maybe it's not. While Jacko Chica may not be canon, it's something I can't unsee, especially when the jack-o'-lantern has its own jump scare. Like what? Even the cupcake doesn't have that. Rude. And at 2, Night Marionette. Also making its first appearance in the Halloween update for Five Nights 4, Night Marionette, also known as Nightmarion or Nightmare Puppet, this character is a horrifying version of the puppet. He uses the same behavior as Nightmare in this game. Night Marionette is the skinniest of all animatronics. His hands are long and just 3 fingers. He has an exposed rib cage that protrudes from his back, and his legs are long and look like they're made of symbiote from a Spider-Man movie. In Ultimate Custom Night, he appears inside the office in random areas, and you must avoid putting your mouse over top top of him to make him go away. Otherwise, he will materialize and he will jump scare you once he's solid. He also makes an appearance in Help Wanted, where he will appear in the second Night of Terrors level, which is fair enough because after seeing him, I will never be the same. The lack of color makes him even more terrifying, and I don't know if I can sleep tonight. Finally, in at number 1, Nightmare. Nightmare is almost identical to Nightmare Fredbear, with the same model but a black body and yellow top hat and bow tie. In Five Nights 4, he will appear in Night 7, replacing every other animatronic, which is honestly intimidating as f***. He doesn't need support to come and kill you. He'll do that on his own. He's a lone wolf, doesn't need a pack to be confident in his abilities, and he's everywhere but also nowhere. The only way you can tell which direction he's coming from is by listening to the footsteps present in the game. In Ultimate Custom Night, he's invisible until he reaches your door, where you can only see eyes. You need to listen for laughter and look out for eyes in order to know when he's coming. Laughing in scary games is torture. It's crazy and sadistic. He enjoys torturing his victims before death, and this is evident by his action in Ultimate Custom Night, but also the way he speaks when he kills you, essentially talking down to you and talking as if he's gloating that he killed you, which is rude as f***. There we have it, friends, the top 10 scary FNAF animatronics. Which ones are the scariest, and are there any you feel I left out? I was avoiding Springtrap because he's William Afton in a suit, not really an animatronic, so there's no need for your angry comments. If I knew any Spanish, I would speak it when I got scared in games. I mean, I do know French, technically speaking. I mean, like, I have a certificate that says I do, but in actual practice, not so much. Greetings, gamers, and welcome back to Top 10 Gaming. I'm your host, Carl Monroe, and Clan Monroe has a castle in Scotland, so don't think I'm using the name Cheese King lightly. The FNAF series is full of animatronics, at this point having over 8 games worth, but which ones stand out above the rest for one reason or another in a good way? That's what we're exploring with today's list of the top 10 best FNAF animatronics. If you love FNAF content, be sure you click up in the top right corner, or click the playlist at the end of the video to see our FNAF playlist. We have like 80 videos, over 12 hours of content, so you'll be set with FNAF for a while. Plus, if you binge, the retention time really helps us out. Okay, let's do this. And at 10, Toy Chica. Toy Chica is here for obvious reasons. The memes. Not her hips. You frickin' sickos. Toy Chica is such a meme, and the only reason she was created was because the community didn't understand that she was a female character. And since Scott tries to clarify things from his last game in his next one, he had to show us that Chica was a girl by making her thick. Yeah, the only reason Toy Chica is here is because she became a meme. Just because she's thick, and honestly, that's the only reason that's a thing. The toy animatronics also end up having all their AI linked to a database full of serial killers and wanted felons in order to prevent another missing children's incident from occurring, which was probably William's job to implement since, you know, he's the suit technician, so I'm sure he didn't include himself, which makes the facial recognition totally useless because he can't find the killer. Toy Chica is only useful for the memes and for not safe for work fan art. And at 9, Nightmare. Nightmare is one of the scariest animatronics. That's why he's on this list. This guy is an absolute beast. Hence why he's been at number 1 of one of the top 10 scariest FNAF animatronics lists. Because this dude is, well, a nightmare. The black color scheme of the character really makes it scarier since all you can see coming at you is razor sharp eyes and teeth. Well, not razor sharp eyes, razor sharp teeth. And an online discount code. Get it? Because Razor. Nonetheless, this character appears to be the reverse of Golden Freddy, a black body with a golden bow tie and hat, instead of a golden body with black accessories. He's one of the only animatronics to crash the game after his jump scare, and the other one being Golden Freddy. And he's honestly just pretty scary. He comes after you alone, showing that he doesn't need anyone's support, comes at you from all directions like a video that wasn't uploaded onto YouTube, and his design is just cool overall. Just look at him. If that's not badass, I don't know what is. And at 8, Ennard. Ennard is one of the best FNAF animatronics because, well, he's 4 of them. For those of you who somehow don't know or forgot, Ennard is the combination of Funtime Freddy, Funtime Foxy, Ballora, and Circus Baby, who all come together at the end of Sister Location and insert themselves inside you while injecting you with Remnant to keep your body as alive as possible before it eventually rots and turns purple, and then Ennard actually ejects itself from your insides, and thanks to that Remnant your body was injected with, your body still remains dead, but you can still control it. Don't you love when the power of intense pain and suffering keeps you alive after all your insides were scooped out and replaced with robot parts that then abandoned your body faster than I left my hometown? Yeah, even if Amanda didn't include it in the top 10 scariest FNAF lore moments list, I still think that this has got to be one of the scariest moments if you think about it, like what it would be like if it was real life. Sure, in the games it's pretty tame compared to some of the things we've seen and heard, but like, If that was real life, seeing a walking corpse would not only scare the living daylights out of everyone and make them think that the apocalypse was here again, but it would be incredibly painful to feel and observe. But honestly, at the rate 2020's going, this might be a thing in a couple days. And it's 7, Funtime Freddy. Ah, Bachelor number 1. The man who honestly makes me regret my life choices, but also gets me to really love my job when I'm your favorite animatronic dating show presenter, Sir Cries-a-Lot. He's a simple man, but I do love playing him. However, the character of Funtime Freddy is really popular among the FNAF community. I don't understand why, because he's just another version of Freddy, but nonetheless, you still seem to love shipping him, even though that literally involves shipping the souls of like 5 dead children, but you know, who's counting? I am. I'm counting. But no matter, Funtime Freddy is still a fan favorite, so much so that you were really requesting the top 10 list about him. Why is Funtime Freddy so popular? Is it because he yeets Bonbon at doors? Cause like, that's the only reason I haven't burned him yet. Yeet! That's so funny. Go get a Bonbon! I choose you! Boom. And at 6, Ballora. Ballora is here for one very specific reason. Everyone loves her. She's not here because she's sick. Oh my god, people, y'all need to chill the hell out. Well, yes, everything she does may be an innuendo, and she was probably built as a replacement for Mrs. Afton. And before you go into the comments saying like, oh, her name is Clara, the only reason people call her that is because of the Immortal and the Restless, okay? It's not confirmed. So I'll keep being respectful to the probably deceased wife of a fictional serial killer. Her name is canonically Mrs. Afton, and don't you be forgetting the missus. It's Back to the Future reference. Ballora is one of the animatronics from Sister Location, and I think the only animatronic to have a song specifically to her in the games, not including any fan songs made using Minecraft animation software, because like I know there's plenty of those. Disconnected. Halfway through at number 5, Baby. Circus Baby was the star of the one-hit wonder Circus Baby's Pizza World. I say that because, well, it was only open for one day. She was also one of the more popular animatronics and possessed by none other than Elizabeth Afton, William Afton's daughter, aka the Purple Guy, aka Springtrap, aka Scrap Trap, okay, they're all the same person, they're William. This family just straight up won't die. However, there's more to Baby than first appears, like the fact that along with the soul of Elizabeth Afton, she also contains the souls of the original 5 animatronics, since William melted down their endoskeletons to create the remnant metal that he then used to create the endoskeletons for the fun times. But also, at least in the book lore, Elizabeth/Baby is also Charlotte, Henry's daughter. If you're not aware, then in the books it was revealed that Henry was William's business partner and that they started the Freddy's restaurants together. However, after William kills Charlotte, Henry goes on to make 4 different robots of her, implanting them with fake memories he made using a tripod and camera, so that his daughter could still grow up. But then in the 4th closet, apparently she's also the baby animatronic that can switch between looking like Baby and then hyper-realistic using pins that stick out of her body that are in the games. It's weird, but people love her, so there you go. And at 4, Bonnie. Bonnie is one of the core 4 animatronics from the original FNAF game. In fact, it's the animatronic Scott Cawthon was most afraid of while testing the game, even getting nightmares after being jump scared by Bonnie. But it's weird, because I feel like Bonnie is the least intimidating out of the original animatronics. It could be the fact that I just resonate with bunnies and that I've been peed on by one countless times, but nonetheless, I still don't find Bonnie as scary as some of the other animatronics in the series. But many of you do, and Bonnie is one bad mamma jamma. With the body of Jeremy inside this animatronic, it's just horrifying to anyone who shares the fears with Scott. But also, there's something I noticed in FNAF VR that I want your thoughts on, okay? In FNAF VR, we hear about Jeremy, a playtester who ends up cutting his face off after seeing Glitch Trap. That instantly sets off alarms because, you know, Jeremy. But at the end of the game, in the pizza party ending, we see Bonnie and Chica in the back room along with our pizza and our cake. And Bonnie, who is possessed by a kid named Jeremy, is missing his face. Coincidence? In this series, you damn well know the answer by now. Just let me know what you think about it down below, okay? Trying to work it out. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, Foxy. Foxy is also one bad mamma jamma. My favorite out of the original 5 animatronics, Foxy is one speedy fox who's swiggity swooty coming for that booty. But that's all he does in the original game. Run down a hall and try to kill you unless you can close your door in time. Again, the doors make no sense, and I'm going to keep saying that because it's true, okay? Unless Scott wants to provide me an explanation directly, the doors will forever make no sense. Why do they close with power? The electromagnets don't do that. Never mind. Foxy got a bigger role in the later FNAF games, getting himself multiple different versions, the Funtime version, the Nightmare version, the Jacko version, and Curse of Dreadbear, called Grim Foxy, and Mango, who could have caused the bite of 87. And for those who were gonna say it was Golden Freddy, that was from FNAF 4's minigames, therefore it took place in 1983, not 1987, okay? Foxy is one of the most popular characters with plenty of fans who still love this little killer fox to death. You could be a pirate, but first you'll have to lose an eye and an arm. Sounds like my report card from elementary school. Into the puppet. The puppet, one of the first victims, killed outside the first Freddy's location by William Afton, as seen in the minigame from FNAF 2, and then saved by the puppet as it crawled out to Charlotte's lifeless body, as seen in the security puppet minigame from FNAF 6. This puppet is the one who started it all. She gave life to the other animatronics and has been an omnipresent force in the FNAF series, appearing in the first 4 FNAF games, most prominently in FNAF 2, as posters in FNAF 1, as a hallucination in FNAF 3, and maybe not in one instance, and as Nightmare in FNAF 4, even if that was deemed non-canon. The puppet is the trigger in a whole chunk of the series. Sure, it may not be the one you should not have killed, but it's still there and it still helped release the souls of the core 5 in the Happiest Day minigame, even if Golden Freddy decided to hang on a little bit longer. The puppet is a key player and that's why she deserves to be the number 2 spot. Finally, in number 1, Freddy Fazbear. Of course, number 1 is gonna be Freddy. He's the title character. He's the main man, the show's starter and stopper, the fudge bear, the breaker of chains, and the mother of dragons. This dude has so many versions, it's like Hannah Montana's wardrobe. Freddy has 17 different versions of himself, or 18 if you include psychic friend Fredbear. How about we list them all for fun? Fredbear, Freddy, Funtime Freddy, Golden Freddy, Helpy, Lefty, Molten Freddy, Ned Bear, Nightmare, Nightmare Fredbear, Nightmare Freddy, Phantom Freddy, Rockstar Freddy, Toy Freddy, Yendo, Dreadbear, Withered Freddy, and last but not least, sing it with me, he's here, he's there, he's everywhere. Who you gonna call? Psychic friend Fredbear. Holy sweet baby Jesus Lord Jesus Crisp the Third. That's a lot of versions. Reminds me of the voices in my head. If the animatronics were real organic beings, what would they taste like? There is, in theory, a universe where this is all true. Honestly, there is a universe for any conceivable idea. Meaning there is a universe where I've already eaten all these animatronics at a fancy restaurant, aiming for world domination at the hands of Rule 34 filled animatronic art themed restaurants, selling what they're posting on 4chan so they can put chips in our brain. But what do I know, really? Greetings gamers and welcome back to Top 10 Gaming. I'm your host Connor Monroe and this is a trigger warning. If you don't want to have fun and are just a stick in the mud, don't watch this video. This has nothing to do with the lore of the FNAF games, and it's just a fun video for everyone to enjoy. This is not serious. Well, aside from number 1, from today's list of the top 10 tastiest FNAF animatronics, let's jump in. And at 10, Chica. Stop, don't even think about it. This isn't a weird Rule 34 thing. This is legitimately because Chica is a chicken, and chicken is delicious. Sorry, PETA. Even if she isn't a real chicken, the character is still meant to be a chicken, so by proxy, chicken would taste normal, right? At least in the dimension where the character originates from. If we subscribe to the many worlds theory, much how like you should subscribe to the channel, what a segue, but there is a universe out there where the animatronics that we know from the FNAF franchise are real life organic beings set on the destruction of humans. And there's another where we all live peacefully. There is also a universe where William Afton is real and I'm the one fighting him. No matter what, Chica is a chicken, and no matter what you say or want to interpret it with your fan art, there is nothing that can change the fact that she is literally a chicken. Her name is Chica the chicken. It's chicken, chicken is good. For the most part. And at 9, Ballora. Okay, there is no real safe way to say this, so I might as well go all in. Cannibalism is a real thing that people partake in. It's not a thing made up for video games, movies, or TV. People do it. We know that. There are famous serial killers that have famously eaten bits of human flesh. And if Ballora was real, cannibals would enjoy a nice home-cooked meal. On the other hand, and this applies to all of the animatronics, people eat metal. There is one man, known as Mr. Eats-All, who literally would eat anything. Somehow he was able to eat nuts, bolts, screws, light bulbs, an entire plane. Not joking, okay? This dude was a powerhouse. He literally brings his own things to restaurants so that they could add it to his plate. He ate a plane, he would eat bikes, he will finish his wine and then eat the glass no problem. He would have a field day when it comes to Ballora. This guy had eaten 18 bikes, 15 shopping carts, 7 TVs, 6 chandeliers, 2 beds and a pair of skis, a coffin, steel chain, and a partridge in a pear tree. But he can't eat bananas because it will give him heartburn. Literally. Unfortunately, Michel Lotito died at the age of 57 of natural causes. Yeah, this guy ate metal and glass for 41 years and died of natural causes. This list is dedicated to you, my man. And it ain't Bonnie. Bonnie is a rabbit. because bunnies and rabbits are the same thing, so don't flip your crap in the comments. Anyway, rabbits, while not being as common as chicken, they're still regularly eaten as dinner, on a less regular basis no doubt, but honestly I've had days where my girlfriend has brought home rabbit that she cooked in class. The taste is nearly the same to me, but I don't have that advanced of a palate, but it's literally meat, okay? Food is food, no matter what. Rabbit, while slightly gamier, is also as common as chicken. It's honestly weird that 50% of the original animatronics were actually regularly eaten, almost as if Scott intended for us to make this list. I mean, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't eat a purple rabbit, but I mean, if it was necessary and I was going to starve to death, I would honestly not think twice. Especially if we're in that universe where the animatronics are real organic beings instead of animatronics. I'm speaking about if these animatronics were real and not just the way they are with the robot parts and everything. Except for number 6. I said Namber. Whatever. And at 7, Dreadbear. This idea actually comes from the VR YouTuber Eddie VR. Amanda and I have mentioned him before, and honestly I love his videos. However, he makes all the FNAF stands mad by giving nicknames to the animatronics, like how I make them mad when I tell them that Springtrap isn't an animatronic because he's not. He calls multiple characters by food equivalents. For example, Mangle is mangoes, Chica is Kentucky, Springtrap is tortillas, and Plushtrap is Tortilla's son. He also calls Dreadbear elotes, which is Spanish for corn, because honestly, have you seen Dreadbear's teeth? They look like they're straight up a fresh cob of corn. Like, he went through the Foxy maze and just started picking up corn and shoving it down his metal interior until eventually he became a corn. It's weird, and honestly, knowing that it's his teeth kinda makes it less appetizing, but that's why he's at number 7, right? Like, I can't explain why he's higher than Bonnie, because Bonnie would actually be food. Don't come for me, PETA. But I can't explain why he's higher than Chica, you know? Because I had to get you to stay somehow. If you see number 10 and it's not something that will kind of make you open your jaw with either excitement, surprise, or lust, then you aren't gonna stick around for something as ridiculous as this list. I had to put Chica first, but I don't know why he's higher than Bonnie. And at 6, Drink Clowns. Lemonade Clown and Fruit Punch Clown make their appearance in Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, also known as FNAF 6. The clowns are basically giant bulbs of their respective drink, and they disperse these drinks with like any drink machine would, but this time it's coming from their body instead of some tank that nobody can see. It's slightly terrifying when you think about it, but it also makes some of the most sense on this list. The others may be iffy, but this one is pretty damn solid. Well, I guess technically it's a liquid, so I shouldn't be joking about that. It's a very important matter. Haha! Look at me go with my terrible jokes and horrifying sense of humor. Oh, you weren't laughing? Why the hell not? We're talking about clowns, aren't we? Clowns are funny and not scary in the slightest. I mean, I see a clown every time I go back to my hometown. And no, I don't mean because most people in that town are jokes. Oh boy, that got aggressive. I wonder what could have done that to me. This lemonade is great, by the way. Thanks, Lemonade Clown. Halfway through at number 5, Gumball Swivel Hand. Gumball Swivel Hands is one of the FNAF 6 animatronics obtained at Stan's Budget Tech for $125 of in-game currency, obviously. Could you imagine if it was real money, like this game was just gonna be one giant cash grab like any mobile game or EA game? Well, Gumball is literally what he sounds like, a gumball machine with a face and rotating hands, which gives it its name. He has a propeller hat and kinda looks like he just drank a gallon of paint. His chest is a gumball dispenser and his head is a bowl full of gumballs colored red, green, blue, purple, yellow, and orange. And from the looks, pink, but it's not listed on the wiki, so that could just be the light reflecting off the animatronic. I'm not entirely sure. I saw pink. I could just be going crazy. Other than the dispenser and the head and arms, Gumball doesn't really have much of a body, only being supported by a pole like any other gumball dispenser. Talk about having a pole up your ass, am I right? And at 4, Shamrock Freddy. Being Irish, I do have a special place in my heart for Shamrock Freddy. He'll never come after me, Lucky Charms. Shamrock Freddy is a skin for the Freddy animatronic that appears in FNAF AR Special Delivery and was added on March 12, 2020, in time for the St. Patty's Day of the worst year ever. His appearance is fairly similar to that of regular Freddy, except being colored entirely green, as you can see here. Oh wait, that's awkward. Forgot I was on a green screen. Well, I guess you'll just have to imagine it. Unless the editor decided to put a picture of it to make me look ridiculous while saying this. The only difference about him and normal Freddy is the color, basically. But why would he be tasty, you say, with the confused look on your face? Well, Shamrock Shake. Duh. I've never actually had a Shamrock Shake because up until like this year I always forgot about it, but hey, everyone who has had it tells me it's delicious and hopefully they're not joking, otherwise I'm going to look even more ridiculous in this number. And at 3, the Cupcake. Do I really need to say anything here? The cupcake is its own animatronic, which I am correcting from a long time ago in a list about scariest animatronics or something like that, I don't know. We do plenty of FNAF videos because the FNAF videos do better than anything else on the channel. Like, we know we milk it, but they keep doing well, so we're gonna keep making more. But if you can't get enough of FNAF and love the series as much as us, click up in the top right corner because we have a playlist of almost 90 videos now. It's nuts. Over 13 hours of FNAF content for you to enjoy. But the cupcake animatronic is literally the only pure food item from any of the main FNAF games. It's literally a cupcake. Yes, it would technically in a way be sentient since it hops around the room in FNAF VR while repairing Chica, but you know what? The sentience makes it better. Make it more personal. I want to hear the cupcake scream as I devour its interior and delicious and sticky icing. Damn, this is really good lemonade. Yo, Lemonade Clown, what's up? And at 2, Chocolate Bonnie. Chocolate Bonnie is kinda like an issue for me if I'm being honest. I'll lick the icing off a cupcake and hear it scream as I close my jaw around its face, but I would get a Chocolate Bunny every year for Easter and whenever I could get one for myself. Specifically, the Mr. Munchie that had the Rice Krispie-like things in it. Not sponsored, but I wish it was. And those rice-filled chocolate bunnies were some of the best memories I have. I love how some of my best memories I have from childhood are about eating chocolate bunnies. Says a lot, eh? Well, no matter, this kind of presents a crossroads. The chocolate bunny is an Easter skin for Bonnie from FNAF AR, but it's like, why does this thing need to be a thing? It's clearly chocolate because we don't see any of the robotic parts inside when looking in the hole on its side, but is it just chocolate? Could I pull a Scooby-Doo and eat my way out of this thing if it catches me and shoves it into its stomach? Does it have a stomach, or like the animatronic equivalent of one? I don't know anymore. It would still be tasty. Is it milk or dark chocolate? Finally, in at number 1, Toy Chica. Hey, mommy! Do I really need to say anything more? Rule 34, baby! There we have it, friends, the top 10 tastiest FNAF animatronics, be it because they'd actually taste good or just because it feels right. If you enjoyed and want to see more weird lists like this, let us know by commenting down below with suggestions and by hitting like and subscribe for daily gaming content and ring that bell to join the clan and level up. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been and shall remain Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video. I'll take my leave. If we subscribe to the many worlds theory, much like how you should if we subscribe to the we know that there are famous serial killers that have famously bitten flesh. We know that there are famous other than the dispenser and the head for arm other than the dispenser. There we have it, friends, the top 10 I can't, hold on. I can't. Oh my god. The FNAF 3 bad ending has recently been highlighted as an aid to the point that Golden Freddy contains 2 souls. This is in reference to the bad ending screen with the animatronic heads with lights on, as opposed to the good ending where the souls of the missing children are set free and there are no lights on in the animatronic head eyes. However, while this may be in support of that theory that 2 souls are inside of Golden Freddy, it doesn't have an endoskeleton leg to stand on, and that's what we're exploring today. Greetings gamers and welcome back to Top 10 Gaming. I'm Connor Monroe and this is the FNAF 3 bad ending analyzed. Now, I've covered this in a reel on my Instagram, something that I plan on doing more of with like smaller theories that may not exactly warrant a whole video, but I have more time here, so I'll be going more in depth this time around. To recap, the proposed theory is that Golden Freddy contains 2 souls, most likely the souls of Crying Child and Cassidy, who is one of the 5 original missing children. They claim this theory is supported by the bad ending screen of FNAF 3 since there are 2 animatronic eyes lit up in the back, which we assume to be Golden Freddy's head. There are multiple reasons that this would happen without the animatronic being possessed by 2 souls though. Firstly, since the entire head is shrouded in darkness, if only one light was on, it would be difficult to make out a proper shape of the head. Here, I made an example. Here's the FNAF 3 ending as we see it, and here it is if only one eye was lit. It's harder to tell that it's an animatronic head, and the only real indication we have is context clues from there being other heads on the screen, and you definitely can't really see the shape of the nose, so it could have been anyone aside from Chica. But we could probably have thought it was Springtrap since he was the main animatronic of the game, or we could have thought that it was Foxy since the other eye was blocked off like he is here. Also, on a similar note, every other animatronic has some form of light splashing over to their other eye, unless it's blocked like Foxy's. This is most notable on Freddy, who has the other eye slightly lit, Bonnie has a stripe of light in the other eye, and Chica has a little bit of light on the edge. So the fact that the other eye is lit is just due to the spreading of the first light, because you know, that's how light works. Also notice how the light behind Golden Freddy's right eye, well, his left or right, is stronger and has a white spot. This is actually the light itself. The other eye doesn't have this, which means that there's only one light behind the two eyes. Let's also take a look at the Happiest Day minigame, the minigame that you must complete to unlock the good ending and put all the souls to rest. The good ending has all the lights in the animatronic heads completely off, making the head and the back impossible to see, which means that all the souls are at peace, right? Well, if that's true and this soul was put to rest, at least in the context of this game, we only see one soul wearing a Golden Freddy mask at that party. So if there was really two souls in the suit, there would still have to be at least one eye lit up in the Golden Freddy head, but that isn't the case. The animatronic is completely off, meaning that the single soul in the suit is at peace. And I know what you're thinking, but we see Golden Freddy torturing William in Ultimate Custom Night. Well, while that may or may not be the case depending on what theories you believe, I'm talking about the context of this game. Remember, FNAF 3 was supposed to be the end of the series. That's why there are two endings. This is why there are many questions. But the community was disappointed with the Springtrap jump scare, making Scott feel like he needed to make FNAF 4 where the crying child was introduced. FNAF 4's crying child didn't exist when FNAF 3 came out, so it's physically impossible for them to also be possessing the Golden Freddy suit in the lore of the FNAF 3 game, when looking at how the series was supposed to end originally. So while it may seem like things were pointing this way, they weren't. They couldn't have been. The final nail in the Scott coffin is actually found in one of the series' books, the Freddy Files, updated edition since it's the one I have. I recently got one for theory fodder and helping me find more evidence to support myself and whatnot, but I also wanted to find what Scott himself deemed the most important to the series, and to find details that he highlighted himself. One of those details is about the FNAF 3 bad ending. Quote from page 60, "If you play the game straight through, after the Night 5 end minigame, you'll see an image of broken animatronic heads, each with a lit eye. Faded text in the background reads, 'Bad ending.'" There it is, from Scott Coffin himself, in what is in essence the FNAF game encyclopedia or walkthrough guide, each with a lit eye. A single lit eye, therefore proving that Golden Freddy has one lit eye, and at the time of FNAF 3 there were not two souls inside the animatronic. And while the story may have been changed to make the two soul theory correct, you can't really use any evidence prior to FNAF 4 to support that claim, because it wasn't planned until at least FNAF 4. However, I would like to propose a different theory, something that would explain the discrepancy and suggest a satisfactory conclusion. There were two souls inside Golden Freddy, but at different times, not at the same time, but one after the other, and that the vacancy left by this ending, FNAF 3's good ending, allowed for Crying Child to possess the Golden Freddy animatronic after he was done torturing William in Ultimate Custom Night, since it would make more sense for the Crying Child to be the one you should not have killed, and someone that William did indeed have a hand in killing, whether it be directly through an alternate death which we didn't get to see, him pulling the plug at the hospital, or by creating the animatronic that crushed his skull, since even if Henry was the one who built it, William would have had to supercharge that jaw to make it happen. It would also explain how Cassidy is set free at the end of FNAF 3, how Crying Child could then possess Golden Freddy, since keep in mind the one keeping William alive in the Fazbear Fright story did go on to possess the Stitch Wraith, which could also parallel Crying Child's story of leaving William to go possess Golden Freddy, and how the one you should not have killed would know about the Nightmare animatronics, when they were just a figment of Crying Child's imagination while he was dying in the hospital. They didn't have real forms. William didn't design them with sound discs or whatever, they were in Crying Child's head. Crying Child also being the one you should not have killed explains the references to he being the spirit, not the animatronic, since why would a spirit who's controlling what the animatronics say, as evidenced by the mediocre melodies, reference the gender of their animatronic and not themselves when they were alive? It just seems weird, especially when this person is so mad that they'd keep their killer alive to torture them. They wouldn't think that they are the animatronic that they inhabit because of that killer. And if this is the case, it would also explain why Golden Freddy is seen shaking at the end of the game. it's also poetic justice, since this is how Crying Child died in FNAF 4 in a coma in the hospital, which only goes to further support this point. And while yes, the stories of Fazbear Frights help us to fill in some blanks from the past, the epilogue stories of the Stitch Wraith guide us forward to where the series is going next. So having two souls inside an animatronic is something that will probably be coming into play later on, rather than having been the case previously. There we have it, friends, the FNAF 3 bad ending analyzed by someone who has worked on over 100 FNAF videos. I actually wonder how many FNAF videos I've made at this point, because like the channel has made over 200, but some of those were Amanda and others, and so they weren't all me, but it's a ridiculous amount either way. But to recap what we talked about, the FNAF 3 ending has no evidence to support the two souls inside Golden Freddy theory. This was proven thanks to light reflections, Crying Child not being a character yet, the game meaning to be the end of the series, and Scott's own words in the official guidebook to the games. We also proposed the idea that Crying Child possessed Golden Freddy after torturing William in Ultimate Custom Night, which allows for the animatronic to have two souls, even if it wasn't at the same time, and explains a load of Ultimate Custom Night. It also lets the original crimes to continually play a role in the rest of the series, since all the evidence wouldn't have been burned in FNAF 6 like we previously thought. Overall, it's a good explanation that fills in plenty of holes from the series, and I may make another video going further in depth into more detail, or I may make a series of reels on my Instagram exploring this idea, but I don't know. What did you think of this theory, and do you have anything to add? Be sure you let me know down below. Speaking of comments, let me respond to some from previous videos. Dino Man said that's not his brain, that's his endo. Okay, I've seen multiple people comment this, and I genuinely did not know that Nightmare's endoskeleton was in FNAF VR. I don't know why he would need an endoskeleton in the first place, because he's fake and transparent, but okay. I can point out when I'm wrong, I'm a man. I mean, it really does look like a brain though, I feel like we can all agree on that. And from FNAF 4, the endoskeletons had flat heads, so until FNAF VR, he didn't really have an endoskeleton, just saying. Wolfie_animation says, you look like a younger version of PewDiePie. If I could even have like a decimal point of anything that he has, I'd be ecstatic. His content is quality and everyone loves him, for the most part. I probably would have went in harder on T-Series though, but I mean, I can still respect the work he puts in. It's damn impressive, so thank you for the compliment. I hope that one day I can get that kind of thing on YouTube, but like, without the whole controversy thing. You know what I'm talking about. Xandor Quinn said, time to make Connor delve deeper into the pits of insanity via FNAF. Was that a pun? Cause like, Into the Pit was the first Fazbear Frights book? No? Just me relating everything in my life to FNAF? I can't even hear these names anymore without thinking of these FNAF characters. My second college roommate's name was Michael, and I never met him. And he just randomly moved out like a couple months before school ended and never said anything about it. Just left a note telling me to take out the trash, left his stuff in the bathroom, and that was it. It was really weird, and I think I might have been living with a robot. Oh wait. But also, like, I straight up never met him. I saw his feet. He had like hobbit feet. They were so hairy. Like, it was like he would wait for me to get home from class and go into my room, and then he would come out and go to the bathroom. It was weird. Godly said Ultimate Custom Night is William's personal hell. In a way, this is true. However, it's him being tortured by the soul of who the game calls you the one you should not have killed, while in a coma at the hospital, as we learn the Fazbear Frights story of the man in room 1280 from the 5th and the original Fazbear Frights book, Fetch. He isn't really in hell or purgatory, it's just his mind. Similar to how FNAF 4 takes place in the Crying Child's mind, like I explained before. But I mean, hey, it's okay. We all make mistakes. Everybody has those days. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Everybody gets that way. I'm a pop star. That's all the time we have for comments today. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been and shall remain Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video. It's a good thing I say the same thing in every outro because you took away my script. I actually wonder, what the hell was that?